Welcome to Real Herbalism Radio, coming to you live or recorded from River Road Studios in Eugene, Oregon. Today's show is made possible by Sue, Candace, and myself, and all the other things that we do when we're not recording the podcast, or Candace and Sue are writing articles. So, Sue, what do you do when you're not?
When I'm not here.
When you're not here.
Well, I have a couple things that I like doing. One is every Sunday I do the Occupy Medical Clinic. And that's that little 501c3 that I'm a part of. And it's a free integrated health.
Is probably a misnomer.
It's a giant. Actually, I had a couple people from the, what is it? Herbalists Without Borders come and take a tour on Saturday. And they walked through the clinic and I said, and I want to show you the other part of the clinic where we had the hospitality. And they walked through that. And then I said, I'm not showing this to you, but we also have Patty Leahy, who she's in charge of wildcrafting. So she takes people out and get all of these things filled via her expertise. And I haven't talked to you about this, but we also have a Wednesday clinic. And I haven't talked to you about it. Just went on and on.
Your little is actually like a middle schooler.
It's giant.
Like a pre-adolescent.
Yeah,
size.
It's just huge. And it's this just roping in the donations and talking to all the donors and going under the bridges and talking to the people that need to be served there. And, when we had the flooding here, doing the river rescues, and it just goes on and on and on and on. So that's one of the things I do. And I have a Patreon campaign going that if people want to support me as that type of a community herbalist, then they can, that's part of, helping the folks around here. And I like being a good role model for, this is a job that is really important for every community as far as I'm concerned. We should have at least one, if not a couple of us running around with our little Robin Hood hats on. Right. But there ain't no money in it. So that's why we put the green cross. Yeah. Which means something different these days. That's
green
why we put out our begging bowl.
They co-opted it.
Yes. And people can also check out, if they're interested, the my herbal consulting business. So that's
and you do house calls with that, right?
Yep, I do house calls with that. Yep.
You do distance
I've done
calls?
distance one too, and that's Sierra Lupe Herbal Consulting @gmail.com if people want to contact me about that. But that's kind of part of my wacky life. What about you, Candace?
What do I do? I have been recently thinking about what it is that I really do. What is like the glue that holds everything together. And I realized, because I've been really drawn toward helping people grow their businesses. And I've noticed that really for me, it's all about helping people grow and helping people transform, whether it's transforming their lives with plants, which I do through my consulting business, Get Healthy Now, or whether it's working with, right now where Patrick and I are transforming Hunter Creation into Mud Pod Design House. And my vision for that is creating it as a business that brings in people, a lot of people of varying, ranges and experiences, but especially I want to focus on new designers, new people who are new to the design field, give them a place where they can really learn how to serve clients well and move in the corporate world well and professionally. And then at the same time, we as a company can serve the many, many, many entrepreneurs and small to mid-sized businesses. Our particular city has an awful lot of people who start up businesses.
Boy, that's for sure. Yeah.
A lot. And
they don't have a good solid foundation. They don't have the broad spectrum for that. They just have this, I want to do this.
Exactly. And there's a lot of pieces that go into building a really good, strong business. And I found myself more and more drawn toward helping people find that financial growth and that financial solidity for themselves, making their own lives better and the lives of the people that they can serve through their products and services. Yeah. So, I've been doing that, and it's partly grown from working in BNI and I'm the vice president of our chapter right now. And as a part of doing that, I've reconnected with the part of myself that used to do business coaching and working on business growth and all of that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And I've realized that, parenting didn't require that part of me, and it was fine for it to rest. I don't need to actively parent the way I once did. And my son's, he's a teenager. He's
He's tall and gangly and
he's going to be hitting the road, seeking his fortune soon enough.
Sure.
So while I'm in this transitional space, so I've been, making a lot of changes with that. So
Wow.
So what I do is work on growth.
Nice. Good for you.
Yes. And today, in fact, one of the things that I was doing was listening to the Herbal Entrepreneur Conference that Maria Noel Groves actually was speaking in that. She was talking about what are some of the basic things you need to start an herbal business.
Oh,
and
wow.
there's they had a really nice selection of folks. Guido Massé is another one that's I've got the link, but
Candace,
I ran
are you
out of
name
time.
dropping?
Name dropper.
But he's a really good one. There's
Yes.
and then I forgot the name of the woman who runs the educational director at the Herbal Academy. She was another one that was speaking, and she was really good.
We'll think of it. We'll think of it later.
Yeah, so it was exciting for me because it's partly like tapping into that idea of business growth and herbalists. And I would love to see more. I would love it if I could help herbalists grow their business.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So that's what I do.
Nice.
And
Patrick.
I keep the furnaces going. I'm the one
the
pounding.
master
I'm the one
behind-
pounding the anvil, if you will, of pounding the pixels. So-
The
Volcon.
master behind Hunter Creation and Mudpaw Design House.
Yeah, so I do all of the design and technical part of the job, and up to just recently, it was all about that, and then trying to figure out the plan for the business, and I just couldn't do it. I can't pop my head up enough to see the distance, the horizon,
Right.
the direction.
Yeah.
I'm always in the forest.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, I get it.
Right. So I that's when I talked to Candace at the time, and I said, I know you are not happy doing some of the things you're doing. What about if you had this ability to direct and be above the trees and kind of give us a focus? Because I can be in there doing it, but I can't visualize anymore. I don't have time.
Yeah.
And I like starting businesses. One of my little side hobbies is I always see that could be a business.
Yes, I've seen you do that.
Right.
So
Hey,
many
that could be
businesses.
business. And some work, some don't. I mean, a true entrepreneur will fail 90% of the time, but they only need one. And Ace High has been a real good success, and we haven't really worked very hard to market that, and that's the apparel business. And owning that with my son has given him some tools that I never would have been able to just teach him.
He has to put his hands on it.
Yeah, it has his own pride with it, his own abilities. And we just recently did an order where I didn't do a thing. I mean, I did a thing. I got the job. I quoted the job. I got the artwork. I did all this stuff. But after the shirts came and the ink came, I didn't do a thing.
Yeah.
He did all the work. He
His
did all the
job is
shipping.
the
He did all the
production,
packing. He got everything ready. And when he said it was done, I didn't go through any of the boxes to count them. I didn't check it. I said, okay, I'll bring it to the customer.
Nice.
So-
well, I've seen the products that Ace High has put out, and they're very impressive. But you guys have these fancy machines, so that certainly helps too.
Well, you're not going to do it with an iron. I mean,
No, you're not.
Because the funny thing is, when you talk to people, they're like, "Oh, isn't that just with an iron?" I'm like, well, no, because that's going to come off.
It's an industrial iron.
Yes, it
It's
is.
really, really, really hot.
And it's really,
giant
really heavy. Yeah.
industrial iron,
But those are the things that I do. That allow me to take the time in the week to do Real Herbalism Radio and manage the website for the Practical Herbalist. And it's not always as up to snuff as I'd like it to be, but it's where I can have it at the moment. So that's what I do. See, so it's kind of funny because we do all these things. So the Practical Herbalist and Real Herbalism Radio is kind of like the term today is the sideline business.
Sideline. Okay.
But for the amount of hours that we put into this thing, I don't know that you can sometimes call it a sideline business.
Right. And it's connected to so many of the other stuff I know that I do.
Yeah.
When I am at the clinic, I think about, I just wrote an article about this plant. That would be so helpful for this patient, or for the Herbal Nerd Society or things like that. All of that stuff. Or I've referred people there. What you need is to go on to the Practical Herbalist website, and here's a recipe. Download it, use it. This is what this is your deal. And yay!
Oh,
And
I
they
can't
use
even
it
tell you
and
how
love
many
it.
people have asked me about the dog food recipe I
Right.
use.
Yeah.
So I'm like, go to the Practical Herbalist. It's right there, free.
Yep.
Get it. It's super
just
easy.
use it. Yeah, that's all I got to do. Yeah.
All right. Well, today we're going to be talking about show 186, which is the Herb Lab on Jessica Baker. And we had Jessica on the show last week, and she wrote the book of Plant Songs by Jessica Baker. Mm-hmm. And I think that I wasn't sure where that was going to go, but it seemed like it was a really interesting podcast. And I don't have much of an intro on this one because it was a little harder for me. So I'm going to turn it over to Sue because you seem to have something to say before the show.
Okay.
Sue always has something to say.
And
it's usually colorful.
And then once Sue has her intro, I will do our classic intro.
Okay, got it. So. All right. Well, thanks to Jessica Baker, both Candace and I were reintroduced to a lot of our favorite herbs, some that we have already covered on our site if you guys are interested in checking that out. And we talked about, before the show was recorded, about our psychological connections to these plants, which we have, like she did, we have a lot of stories that showed where we got some personal growth from it, and that they're kind of hallmarks for us and symbols for us in the ways that they interact with our life and the lives of those that we love. So that's what we're going to be covering today.
All right. So without further ado, here are your hosts, Candace Hunter and Sue Lupe.
I'm Candace Hunter.
And I'm Sue Lupe. And welcome to Real Herbalism Radio. Okay, did I do okay with that?
I mean, geez, do you think after...
Right? Patrick.
You should. I mean, after 180 of these shows, right? You should be able to just...
Oh, yeah, he's just saying, because I've been sitting with a master over there.
Oh, right,
I should have sucked something up.
Oh, no.
That's the deal.
No, that's the deal, yeah.
No.
All right, here we go. So plant songs.
You know, when this book first came out about a year ago, roughly, I remember seeing it on Instagram. And I can't remember how it was that I happened across Jessica Baker, but I saw it and it looked really cool. It looked like a really great book. So it made it onto my list of books to read. And that list is a very long list. And then that's the secondary, because the books to read list is my yet to procure. And then there's the 10 that are sitting on the shelf waiting for me to read them.
Yep.
And then the 3 or 4 that are by my bedside, which are probably closer to being read than the ones on the shelf.
Uh-huh.
So
that's how castles are built.
Right. I hadn't quite gotten to it. And Jessica reached out and said, hey, would you guys be interested? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, sure, send me a couple copies. Let's take a look at it. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I got a little poke there to get me to move on it too. Mm-hmm. So I bumped it right off the list, past even the bedroom table books.
Nice. Well, it's a fast read.
Yes.
She's an engaging author. Sorry.
Yeah.
And of course, the other thing that I already mentioned is we know these plants.
Yes, we do. We do. And we have stories for just about all of them, if not all of them. You probably have all of them. I still don't have the magic mushroom stories.
All right. Well,
and I'm not even going to try to pronounce that word again. That was so embarrassing.
Psilocybin mushrooms.
Psilocybin.
You just those silly cow pasture mushrooms.
Yep.
Let's call them that.
Yep. I found them before. I just never...
You didn't stick them in your mouth.
I've never imbibed yet.
Yeah.
So if you could focus it then in this way, what was on all of the herbs in that book, what was the one that really brought up a memory, or brought up a thing for you?
Well, I can tell you this week, I was looking out at my magnolia tree. We have a very small magnolia tree.
And it's young.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And with the snow, usually she's bloomed already. And with the snow and then the weird rain and all of the crazy weather we had, the blooming was a little bit later. And I was looking at her just as she was beginning to open, and it reminded me of my grandmother as well. But my reason for magnolia reminding me of my grandmother has absolutely nothing to do with where my grandmother lived, or she lived in Pennsylvania in the hills. There was no magnolia trees there. And when I was really young, she lived just outside of Detroit. Also, no magnolia trees. But when my grandmother reached, I think if I remember right, she was like 93 years old or so. She was living alone. She was doing well, but she did fall and hurt her hip, and she decided that it was time to go live in the retirement home that she had chosen to live in. And she had a plan, and it was all fine, and she moved in. And the week that she moved in, I wrote my first letter to her. And when I was really young, I used to write to her regularly, and she always wrote back quickly. anytime I wrote, even if it took me forever, she always returned my letters quickly. And off and on, we had this correspondence. Even when my son was, a small child, we kept off and on writing several, once a month or something like that. And I decided when she moved into the nursing home, I thought to myself that's got to be a really hard transition, because she had lived for so long independently. She had a good community around her. She lived in the hills of Pennsylvania, and she lived at the top of a hill, and she would walk down to the hospital at the bottom of the hill to have her blood pressure checked once a week, every week, and then walk right back up the hill to her house. So she had been quite mobile for quite a long time. And I decided that first week, I was like, I'm going to write to her every week. And I made it a ritual. And for the next 7 years, I think it was almost 7 years, 6 years, I wrote to her every single week, and just wrote about whatever was happening in my life. And I told her many times, there was a point where it was getting harder for her to write because her hands, she had arthritis and then her sight was going. But I told her, I don't care if you don't write back, it's okay. You don't need to write back. I'm writing to you because I care. But you wrote to me so many times when I didn't return letters, or I was slow and all of that. Now it's my turn to make sure I take care of you this way. So that was why Magnolia, every year Magnolia would bloom. And that was one of the ones that I would tell her, the magnolias are blooming now.
Okay, from where you are. Yeah.
Because when I was young, we used to walk through her gardens, and she would, every year when we arrived, we'd go through her garden, and then various great aunts and uncles when we would go visit them, because many of them lived in that same community. So there would always be the garden tour. Here's my pansies, here's my roses, and they'd point out everything that's blooming. So in the spring, I would tell her when the magnolias were blooming.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Aw. And where were you living at that time?
During this whole period?
That you would look out your window and see the magnolia.
Oh, in the house that I'm currently in.
That you're in. Okay.
Yeah, my grandmother passed on, I think it was 2 years ago, at the ripe old age of 100.
Yeah.
So she lived quite a long life.
She did. Well, good on her. Well, that's good. Oh.
So that was my big magnolia story, that it happens to also connect me with my grandmother, but for really different reasons.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, Rose is I think of the women in my family with Rose, and I was actually taking out a bunch of roses because I had this one viney rose that just its job is still to get rid of the English ivy that is growing in between my fence and my neighbor's shed.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So I can't dig it out.
No.
And I was like, I'm going to let this rose just grow over it and smother it. And it's been doing a great job of that. But it's also threatening a little tree on the edge of the garden. Oh. So
you have to pull it back a bit.
Yeah.
Is it like a wild rambling rose?
Kind of, yeah.
Because that's how I always picture you, as being a wild rambling rose.
Yeah, I'm a little bit on the feral side. But
I don't know that feral and rambling rose, they're synonymous.
Oh, well, rambling roses
can be a little bit feral.
Yeah.
Okay.
And thorny. I'm a little thorny.
Yeah.
But that's why I have little scratches all over me from the.
This time it's just the roses.
This time it's just the roses. Yes, that's it.
Sometimes it's the hawthorn. Other times it's the cats.
I've got them on my legs.
Oh, and then there's the blackberry scratches. Right. There's those.
I'm a mess. But
you're an herbalist.
I'm an herbalist. Yeah. So the rose reminds me a lot of my grandmother, because she had this gorgeous garden, and people always talked about her roses and how fragrant they were, and how she would trim them and pay attention to them. And she had 6 kids, but she didn't really like children. They're just
nice.
I mean, she liked babies. Babies are adorable. She loved babies.
Yeah. And then they grow up.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she had only girls because she didn't have any regard for males at all. She thought they were
that's a good thing that
dumb.
She had girls.
Yeah, that worked out pretty well. But she was a stinker, but she was also she was so durable. She had her thing that she liked to do, and you were drawn not to her personality because she was a mean woman, but to just the projects that she was doing, like making the soap in the big huge pot and the all these things. That she still had a toaster that you put on the stove, with way past when everybody else was using electricity, and she was, this works. I don't see any reason to replace this behavior.
Very practical.
It was like a living museum.
Right.
And her gardening was, she even grew daisies inside in pots.
Oh, wow.
She could grow anything.
She could stick a tire in the ground.
And it would, turn into a car. Yeah. But yeah, she was pretty fascinating that way. Bull in the china shop, but boy, yeah, very thorny woman, thorny woman. And I think of all the women in my family, like my mom loved the yellow rose of Texas. And she had a lot of roses too. And she would pick the roses by the color and then the name of it. And like the whole thing was this story that she would plant into the ground too. So roses were important to her as well. And I wished that I was better at taking care of those kind of roses, but they need a little more care than I'm willing to put into them.
Yeah, the rugosas and the rambling roses are sturdy.
They're sturdier, yeah. Like I don't know. I'm not adverse to pruning things, but
you have to remember to do it.
You have to remember, and I also get so excited about, here's some new growth. Look at it go. Look at it go. Which is why the roses that I had to tear out were so huge, because they just went and went and went. And I just continued to be impressed by them.
Right.
I wasn't ignoring them. It's like, look at you. You are so just pretty. And when we took out the small chunk that we did, it completely filled the back of my husband's trailer. It's like totally the kind of thing that you can stuff a vehicle in.
Right there.
Yeah. Just out of control. And it didn't even make a dent.
No.
So.
Of course not.
Yeah. But yeah, I was taking down a tree, so it needed to have some boundaries. So and she has, Jessica has in her book, Plant Songs, a rose thing about that. And I know in her book, she was talking about the meaning of the different plants and the flowers. And I think sometimes that ties into the meaning I have in my own life for it. Mm-hmm. And I know things vary from culture to culture, but also tea, having black tea in my life. I have a lot of green tea in my life, and I don't like green tea. I keep trying, but I just don't like it. Yeah. But I love black tea. Like when I'm having a bad day, I will drink black tea. And then I'll put like the first cup, use the same I don't use a bag, but I'll use a strainer.
Yeah, strainer.
First cup, I just drink that straight. And then the second cup, I'll put a little bit of honeybush on it, just like a tiny spoonful to kind of sweeten up. So the second cup has still got a slightly different flavor. And that seems to turn a bad day into a better day.
Nice.
Because I think there's the ritual attached to it. And there's a ritual attached to coffee too.
There is, but it's different.
Yeah.
So but coffee's more mechanical. I mean, to get the, there's, you can do the steeping thing.
Right. Uh-huh.
But that's usually a 24-hour deal, But coffee is, you got to grind it. You got there's hot water involved. You got to steep it. Then you got to strain it out. And it's all these things to making coffee. And then if you want the espresso, then you got to have the machine. It's got pressure. And
all that stuff. Yeah.
So coffee's different. Coffee's very fire.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a lot of fire about coffee. And tea is more like a mountain. The high mountain, it just relaxes you.
Yeah, it's different, I think. It's a different feeling. Even when I have tea, I feel it. Even though like black tea or green tea, caffeine, doesn't matter. It's still got that different feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, well, it's a settling thing. And I need some black tea this week. So it's nice to have that. And then, I took I've taken black tea or green tea bags and put that on my little owie scratches, which I apparently always have. So
that works really well.
It does, because it's astringent.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have that available. But the honeybush thing, that's kind of new for me. I'm not much of a sweet drinker.
Right.
You know, I don't like sodas.
Yeah.
I don't really like sweet alcoholic drinks at all. No. But
so Southern sweet tea actually isn't your cup?
Well, my grandmother did not sweeten it that much.
Yeah, the sweet tea they sell is just
too sweet. It's too sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the stuff you can buy at the store that's pre-made.
Yeah. And I know that can vary from place to place. I have a friend, she was raised in Georgia, and the sweet tea that she served us was like, oh, wow.
Your teeth are rattling.
Yeah. But it'll vary. But I think probably is because my grandmother was so cheap. So the sugar was expensive.
Yeah. So she's not going to.
Yeah.
She's not going to waste a lot on you.
No, certainly not a grandchild.
No,
yeah.
No.
Ridiculous.
No.
Yeah. But yeah. And then of course, because at the time where we're recording, it's allergy season. So
yeah.
Nettles,
that's
plantain.
One of your favorites this time of year.
And I just love nettles.
Yeah.
I love how durable it is. I love how excited I get. It's like, oh, there's some nettles.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
and I like it that it bites. It makes me happy. But we've given a lot of people black nettle syrup, and that's a recipe that's on our website if people are interested in that. And thank you, Wendy Hansel, for that. And then we have capsules that we make at the clinic or a blend, that we make at the clinic that has nettle, plantain, and yarrow. And
nice.
One of my nurse practitioners, she came in, she said, I took some Benadryl and it's just not working for me because it's allergy season. All the big leaf maples are blooming.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have anything that would help? And I gave her that blend that I just talked about. And she came back after seeing one patient, says, oh, that worked right away. That worked right away.
Nice.
And she was super excited about that. So it's like, yeah, herbs work. Surprise.
They do.
So she wanted a bunch more of that. She was very happy about that. And of course it wasn't counterindicated with anything she was taking. Just her eyes cleared up and she was more alert, and she'd taken a couple of things that we'd had sitting around, but she's just mostly like, oh, no, that's fine. But when you go from not breathing and just your eyes are red and inflamed to within how long did it take her with that patient? Maybe 10, 15 minutes. It's all a totally different deal. And it's when she's not paying attention to it.
Yeah.
Then she's like, oh, sold.
Nice.
So it fills me with satisfaction when I see some nettle.
Yeah.
Because I think, oh, this is going to help so many people. And it's delicious, of course, because I love cooking with it. Yeah. So nettle, warm fuzzies. Yep. Was there another plant in there that you were attached to?
Oh, most of them, I love most of them, to be honest. I mean, we just moved one of our flower beds, our raised beds, and it had yarrow in it. And as part of while we were moving it, I was thinking about the yarrow that was in there. I purchased that at a end of season sale at the Oregon Botanical Gardens, I think.
Was it the pink one? And
when we were at the American Herbalist Guild conference.
That's right.
3 years ago, I think.
Ooh.
2 years ago. Anyway, I brought that home, and I didn't know when I put it in there if it would survive. It was the end of the season. It was
right. Sure.
What was that? Mid to late October, something like that. And so it's done well. And as I was moving it, I was hoping it would survive again, being moved.
Yeah.
So far it looks like it's done well. But that's one that I usually use in my own allergy blends during this time of year.
Because it's so astringent, helps drain the sinuses.
Yeah. And it also is one of the things when you look at allergies for like herbal or Chinese herbal medicine or practitioners look at allergies like the itchy eyes and the runny respiratory system. They look at that as being too much heat stuck in your lungs and in your chest.
Oh.
And yarrow is part of why we use it for fever is it draws heat out. So it gets opens the pathways or opens your pores and that sort of thing. So for allergy season, it does some of the same stuff as it opens up your pores and allows that heat to flow out. So I was, that's one of the ones that I used as well. And then I combined that with some desert herbs that I got from Christina from Every Leaf Speaks. She sent me some yerba santa and some Mormon tea, which is Ephedra nevadensis.
Nevadensis,
Yeah, nevadensis. So I combined a tincture, yarrow, the Mormon tea, and the yerba santa together. And I can't remember. I think I may have put a small amount of something with a little bit of moisture producing to kind of
like
balance
mucilaginous, a marshmallow, or
I think I used a marshmallow leaf.
Okay,
I should have brought it with me so I could remember.
Marshmallow leaf is I think underutilized.
Yeah,
people are like, oh, that run. Yeah, if you like snot, sure. But
no,
marshmallow leaf is milder and easier to sprinkle in there, and it's easier to drink.
Yes,
because it doesn't turn into goobers.
Yes. Yeah, I like it because it is milder, and I also prefer for a short infusion like that, or for tinctures.
Right.
I like if I can get away with not using the root. I'd like to. And if I'm going to use roots, then I want it to be pretty much an all root formula or barks, and then I can stick it in the crock pot and you decoct it easily.
Yeah.
But for the allergy blend that I did, I was using tinctures and I have marshmallow leaf. I think I have it as a glycerin. I can't remember, but I can't remember offhand which one. I put in something that was balancing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But for me, I've personally found that the Mormon tea does really, really well, and the yerba santa combined with it do really, really well. Where I've tried the black nettle syrup, and for me that didn't work very well.
Oh, interesting.
And I think it's a difference in constitution in the way that my body, as compared to, because I'm a very damp person, shall we say?
You're dampy.
Yes, and I have a tendency to hold heat really, really, really well. So I think that's why.
Right.
And the
I like to expel it.
Yeah, the ephedra combined with the yarrow and the yerba santa, that really gets it moving. So
that's why we're such a good combination.
Yeah.
I just like sitting here blazing away, and you just soak it in.
Yeah. Ooh, toasty.
Nice.
Yep. So yeah, another one that I was looking at was the Angelica.
Oh yes, I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I like Angelica. It's a wonderful herb.
Yeah, towards the end of her book, she had put that one in there. Jessica Baker had, and the nice thing is that she put 4 Angelica species in all together, and they're normally separated.
Yes,
completely. Yeah, but I love the notion of addressing things as a group.
Yeah,
because they do look a lot alike.
They do, and they share an awful lot of similar qualities. But
they do,
each with their own personality.
Yeah, like the Donquois is very sweet.
Yeah,
and Archangelica is not sweet.
Totally not.
God not.
Yes.
Nope.
Yes.
But the other two, by Z, I remember tasting that. I haven't really used it, so I'm not necessarily. I don't have any connection to that one necessarily. And I've seen people, or I've known people that have used the Angelica pubinensis and that one, but I don't know much about that one. It's just these two, the Donquois and then the Garden Angelica, that I'm familiar with. Which that's the thing for June.
Yes,
herb of the month.
Yeah, the Herbal Nerd Society folks are going to get to start looking at Angelica in June.
Yeah,
excited about that.
Angelica June.
Yes.
That sounds that sounds like somebody's name.
Angelica June.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that would be the cutest kids book.
That'd be a nice baby name.
Yeah, Angelica June. All right, grandkid. That's the next one.
There you go. There's the next one.
Well, if you are not an Herbal Nerd Society member, because if you're not, you won't be able to see those Herb of the Month articles.
Yes,
So if you're not a member, then you would want to join. How you join is go to thepracticalherbalist.com, and at the top it says Join the Herbal Nerd Society tab. Click on that and then choose between your choices $4.99 a month with a 3-month commitment, and then a year at $49.99 a month, or a year, excuse me. And you save like 20% by doing that. So but that's how you do it. And then you have access to all of the articles for June, but then all of the past Herb of the Month articles that have been done. And currently you'll have access to all the other podcasts that we are no longer public.
Right.
So, but real simple way to do that. And that supports us and it helps keep Real Herbalism Radio every week going on.
That's right. Yeah. We appreciate when people support us in that manner.
So join and then let your friends know about it and have them join. And it keeps us, like I say, it keeps us going, keeps us doing what we do here and getting that information out to you.
Yeah.
So Angelica June.
Angelica June. That's what's going to happen. And we're very excited about having that as an option for folks when they will be able to learn about that plant as we're delving into it too.
Yeah. And if you're looking to get a jump on it, you might want to consider getting a copy of Plant Songs and reading what Jessica Baker has to say about Angelica.
Yes.
And the 4 different ones.
And there will be a book review available on our site too. Yes, there will.
Yeah. Yep. So you can get a link and get that book.
Yep. And enjoy it like we did. I had some time in my week. Somehow, I have no idea how that happened because I never have time in my week. And just after coming back from the medical supply store and went across the street, I was in downtown Eugene, and pulled this book out of my bag, my giant Texas bag. And because it has pictures of Texas, scenes of Texas on it, and got a big cup of coffee and drank the coffee and sat in the sun and read a couple more of her chapters over again. Because I felt like the first time I just glanced through it, really, I didn't. Yeah. Some of them I really read deeply, and the others I was like, oh yeah, this plant. But one of the ones that I read over was that Angelica one.
Nice.
And it was nice. At the end of that chapter, a couple of people that I knew walked by and came and hung out with me, and it just had that whole time had this nice, warm, cozy feeling.
Nice.
Yep, it was great. And then there was this really rude person who is the parking attendant in that area, and he came by in his little cart, and I saw him, was like, oh, that's that guy. I can't stand that man. And he went by and he saw my vehicle, because I've had words with him about his behavior towards the unhoused, and they were not words that he wanted to hear at the time. So he went by and he double looked at my vehicle. He was like, he didn't see me sitting there at the thing, and he was looking like, can I get this? I swear on his face, he was like, he had a little snark and thing. I'm like, gosh, I'll pay that damn. And went away. Well, I thought, oh, this adds to the joy of this afternoon. So it was kind of fun.
I think you needed to try the Spirit of Sages spritzer on him.
Oh, really? Just go for it. Squirt, squirt.
Yeah.
He would
It's
love
a combination of 2 sages and Angelica.
Yep.
And he could maybe use that.
I'm
to
sure.
Just calm himself down.
That would probably putting water on a dog. Just calm him right on down. Yep. Yep. But I didn't, because I'm a mature adult.
Good job.
Thank you.
Sue.
Thank you. I feel like I need to get a prize for that.
I think you do deserve a prize.
Yeah. Well, send your prizes to Susie or Lupe at.
Well, anything else you guys want to talk about on this book? Or are you just about ready?
I guess we're pretty. There's a lot of recipes in there I haven't tried yet. I'm gonna have to get on
the other one that came up for me just was because we had received from one of our guest authors, we had received a pinyon pine recipes. Okay. So the pine the chapter on pine. It just made me think of that.
Yes. Christina Sanchez once again. Her name keeps coming up.
It does.
You're gonna.
And she had some terrific recipes, and it just made me think of the pine recipe, or the pine chapter in Plant Songs.
Yep. She's an impressive gal. We
So
are so
guys,
lucky to do what we do.
Yeah, you guys can look for Christina's recipes as well on the Practical Herbalist.
Yeah, and thank you, listeners, for joining us once again for our foray into herbalism. And as always,
no, this, not yet. No.
You got another thing?
We have to do something. So make sure to follow us on Facebook.
Oh, right. I'm sorry.
Like us on Facebook.
Please
do the Instagram thing. Hashtag the Practical Herbalist.
If you would.
All of that stuff helps. Write reviews. If we've said something here today that strikes a chord, write a review on whatever podcasting venue you use, whether that's iTunes, whether that's Stitcher, whether that's iHeartRadio. It doesn't matter. A review helps us because other people will make a judgment on whether or not they're going to waste the time to add us to their subscription list.
Right. And we are not a waste of time.
No, we are not.
No,
Nope.
that was, so every time I add a podcast, I mean, I give a podcast a couple shows. If it's not engaging me, it's off my phone.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, that's
so with that,
put an herb on it.
The statements made about herbs and products on this podcast have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. All information provided on this podcast or any affiliated websites is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for advice from your physician or other healthcare professional. You should not use the information on this podcast and its affiliate websites for a diagnosis or treatment of any health problem. Always consult a healthcare professional before starting any new vitamin supplements, diet, or exercise program before taking any medication.